Hey, everybody, please make sure to go ahead and rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks. 64. Let's get to Saw X or Saw 10, which is crazy to think. When this one came out, I had no idea that there were already 10 of these movies, which is insane. And it came out late last year. It's directed by Kevin Grudert, stars Tobin Bell, Shawnee Smith, Sinead Cody Lund, Stephen Brand, Renata Vaca. That's about it. And the synopsis is a sick and desperate John travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure in hopes of a miracle cure for his cancer, only to discover the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. So, we haven't talked about Saw much on the show. Of all the horror franchises out there, this one isn't the one I'm immediately drawn towards. I like a lot of others more than this, purely just the concept. I think I just find others more entertaining and grabbing. But when this one came out, it seemed like it was a bit of a return to form. At least that's what I gathered. Some of the trailers and ideas kind of hooked me. But really, you got to be in the right mood for a Saw movie, at least in my opinion. So just got around to watching it yesterday. And I liked it more than I thought I would. I think the first Saw, I haven't seen all of the Saw movies. I've seen maybe the first two or three. So story wise, I'm a little in the dark in terms of what connected to what, who was who, blah, blah, blah. But I think what surprised me the most was the direction is very strong for the most part. I think the opening setup, and the spoiler is in the synopsis, so I can go and talk about it, where he travels to Mexico because he has cancer, and there's this supposed miracle cure and surgery that he can get, and he pays these people a lot of money, and then he seemingly has a surgery and he's cured, and then suddenly it's a big scam. And that's in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling it, I don't think. And then the rest of the movie is him and his assistant getting revenge on the scammers. So I thought that the opening setup, as I was saying, pretty strong. Like, you really are given, if you didn't know anything about the story beforehand, you are really given a fairly earnest scenario of him going through surgery, him getting better, and moving on. And you're like, wow, that's actually really touching. Like, he is very relieved as well, of course. And so that opening 20 minutes really grabbed me way more than I thought it would. And I think it's a lot better than it needs to be for a 10th installment in a horror franchise, you know? So that got me invested in the rest of the movie. And then, of course, the rest of the film turns into a typical Saw film where he has these people locked up and they have to go through the various games, quote unquote, to save their lives. And, you know, their limbs cut off and heads cut off. And I won't go into it too much to spoil it. But just talking about not the whole franchise, since I don't have much experience with it, but I thought it was quite entertaining. It's maybe a little long. I don't think it needed to be 2 hours. And I think the last 15 or 20 minutes or so kind of drag. But when the main contestants, let's call them, are in the traps, those are very intense. It's very well directed. The gore is strong. The score is excellent. And the performances are also quite good. There wasn't anyone who I was thinking was bad. The final few twists with the main orchestrator of the scam and like getting one up on each other, I thought all that was very compelling and intense. And also, I guess the franchise as a whole, but especially this one, is about trying to take people, not that this is the way to do it, but at least the people that they're doing these things to are horrible scammers, you know, so that gives the character more, not relatable or like excusable, but makes it more compelling, I guess, in the long run. And besides that, not a whole lot else to say. I think one of the only, not logic issues, because I guess it just comes down to personal perspective, I suppose. But the big thing with this franchise is these people will be put in these traps or whatever, where they have a certain time limit to do something horrible to themselves, like self-mutilation. And then if they achieve it, they survive. And if they don't, they are killed by whatever mechanism they're locked into. And I feel like with how many times it happens where someone will inflict horrible pain on themselves and then die, especially after having watched other people endure the same thing. And I get it's a movie, but I feel like realistically, I would just be like, just kill me. I'm not gonna, saw multiple limbs of my body in a short amount of time or do some horrible thing to where I'll be horribly mutilated for the rest of my life and traumatized. And so I just don't, personally, I don't see the allure of that. But again, that's just a nitpick logic thing. So I would check it out. If you haven't seen any of the Saw movies, I think you could watch this one and get a fairly decent picture. Like, you don't really have to have seen, at least to me, many of the others at all. I would just watch it on an empty stomach because it is pretty gruesome. So that is a 3.5 out of 5.